An urgent question, Michael Meacher.
As an urgent question, I rise to ask the Chancellor of the Exchequer to now make a statement on the Bilderberg conference which he attended.
Mr. Speaker, this is the first occasion for me, as I've never previously answered a question in the House of Commons on behalf of a private organisation for which the government has no responsibility. I have actually been a member of the steering committee of Bilderberg for many years now, I think about 10 years, and by chance actually this is my last year because we have a rule against being on the committee for too long, so I'm on the point of stepping down. Others are timeless with no rules at all, but this particular role I have now reached the end of my allotted span. The Bilderberg organisation exists for the purpose of holding meetings once a year in various countries. It exists for no other purpose. And this year the meeting was held at a large hotel near Watford in Hertfordshire. I didn't receive adequate notice of this question as it happened, because I wasn't found in time to put to hand the list of those who participated and the agenda which we discussed, but we always circulate those before the meeting and they're readily available, and I can certainly put any honourable member in touch with a source of the list of those who took part. Each year we invite something over 100 people. It was about 140 this year. Drawn from both sides of the Atlantic, from Europe, including Turkey, and from the United States and Canada. The people who attend are drawn from the worlds of government, politics, academia, defence, journalism. We all attend the people who attend change slightly each year. There's a core of those who regularly attend. Different people come. Well, I'm trying to guess at what on earth people are asking a parliamentary question about this for and what they're interested in. All the people who attend as individuals. We invite people as individuals. Nobody attends representing any particular organisation to which they might belong, and a very interesting 2 or 3 days take place in which we have discussions on matters of public affairs. There's a very wide range of experience, a very wide range of political opinion represented, and I always find it greatly adds to the depth of my understanding of what is being talked about and contemplated in many parts of the States and in Europe as well. And it's one of many political gatherings I attend from time to time as part of the background to my activities. And if the Honourable Member for Oldham finds something deeply disturbing in all this, I would only advise that he finds different people to exchange tweets with on his internet. Perhaps the House might be allowed to return to some matter of rather more real public interest in which this House of Commons has a role to play.
Mr. Michael Meacher.
I thank the right honourable gentleman for that filibuster. The Bilderberg conference comprises about 130 of the world's, or Western world's, top decision makers, from the banks, the multinational companies, the EU Commission. I'm coming to the politicians, also from WTO, IMF, World Bank, and of course leading politicians from the US, Canada, Eurozone and the UK. And I think, though they were clearly discussing some of the biggest issues confronting the Western economies at this time, why have we had no statement either from the Prime Minister or from the Chancellor or indeed from the Minister without portfolio, all of whom attended in an official capacity? Why did they offer no statement, even though such decisions may well have a significant effect on UK government policy or the livelihood of future UK citizens? It is said by some, and indeed by the Right Honourable Gentleman, that Bilderberg is a conspiracy. Of course it's not a conspiracy. But at the same time, 130 of the world's top decision makers don't travel thousands of miles simply for a cosy chat. They have come here in order to concert their plans to deal with a particularly awkward stage in Western capitalism, and as such, we, the public, are entitled to ask some questions and to hold them to account. The Prime Minister said in 2010, and I quote his words, "For too long those in power make decisions behind closed doors and denied people the power to hold them to account. This coalition is driving a wrecking ball through that culture, and it's called transparency." And the Chancellor himself announced his commitment in 2010, and I quote again, "to the most radical transparency agenda the country has ever seen." So why is there no transparency about a very crucial meeting that could affect us all? Finally, can he explain how the Prime Minister, at the start of last week, can announce a crackdown on corruption and lack of transparency amongst lobbyists, and then he and the Chancellor, by the end of the week, are insisting that the largest and most powerful lobbyist group in the Western Hemisphere, an anti-democratic cabal if ever there was one, should operate in conditions of utter blackout and complete secrecy?
The Bilderberg meeting does not take any decisions. It doesn't have any resolutions. We couldn't possibly reach decisions because of the range of opinions actually represented there. It is purely a Chatham House rules discussion between the people he describes. And amongst those there, the Shadow Chancellor was there, Peter Mandelson was there, Prime Minister was there, Chancellor of the Exchequer was there. And most of us said things which, in the discussions which wouldn't have come as a surprise to any of us because we knew what our opinions were. We go there for the chance of having an off-the-record, informal discussion with the range of people he's described, who are indeed distinguished, but are not remotely interested in getting together to decide or organise anything. If the Honourable Member actually would like to have an invitation, that's what really lies behind, then I will take his own distinguished claims on participation of the group carefully into account, though I will, of course, consult the Shadow Chancellor before taking this a step further. But this really, with the greatest respect, is total, utter nonsense. And I would normally regard the Honourable Member as not the sort of person to be taken in by this sort of rubbish. We all take part in lots of political and other discussions as private individuals on Chatham House rules where we do not expect everybody to go out giving a version of what we've just said. Nobody alters their opinions when we're there. On transparency, this government is by a street the most transparent government that I have ever been in. But we can only be transparent for those things for which the government has responsibility, and what we're doing as a government.
The Minister without portfolio said, rather prosaically, I thought, that Peter Mandelson was there. I assume he was referring to no less a figure than Lord Mandelson of Foy. I think that's the person he had in mind.
It wasn't, Mr. Speaker. We all attend extremely informally. We're not there in any capacity.
Yes, order! The Minister can resume his seat.
Peter Mandelson
can resume his seat. And nobody in the House has a better sense of humour than the Right Honourable and learned gentleman. I had thought that he realised I was gently teasing him. Sir Tony Baldry.
Isn't it rather cruel to oblige the Prime Minister to have to spend a weekend with Lord Mandelson Foy and the Shadow Chancellor? And did anyone who was at the Bilderberg conference go away any wiser as to how the Labour Party, if they were to win the next general election, was going to square the circle of how they're going to manage to tackle the deficit?
Well, I can only hope they were, but Chatham House rules prevent me offering any further opinion on that question.
Mr. Red Balls.
Mr. Speaker, the idea of the Lord Mandelson attending any meeting informally is not something which I've ever experienced, but as one of the British parliamentarians who attended the weekend meeting in Watford, alongside the Prime Minister, the Chancellor, Lord Mandelson, Baroness Williams, and the Right Honourable Gentleman himself, can I ask the Minister without portfolio, does he agree with me it's important that government ministers and shadow ministers meet regularly to discuss important issues with fellow government ministers, opposition politicians, academics, journalists and business leaders from around the world? Can he confirm over the last 60 years the annual Bilderberg meeting has been properly attended by Prime Ministers, Chancellors and Shadow Ministers from all sides of this House, including Lord Healey, Lord Ashdown and the late John Smith? Does he agree that it's a welcome development that the Bilderberg Group now publishes a list of all those who attend and the topics that are discussed? Does he agree with me that the list of topics discussed this weekend, can the US and Europe grow faster and create more jobs, the challenge of Africa, trends in medical research and developments in the Middle East are all vital issues which every government and opposition must grapple with for the benefit of all citizens? And could I finally say, Mr. Speaker, we fully understand that it is because the Minister without portfolio is a member of the Bilderberg steering group that he is well qualified today to answer this question, which was asked to the Chancellor for that reason and not for his economic expertise. If, on the other hand, the Minister without portfolio were to stand in at the next Treasury questions, then we and all conspiracy theorists would then rightly be concerned.
Yes, well, I'm grateful to the Right Honourable Gentleman for perhaps addressing the question more straightforwardly than I did. He's obviously feeling a little defensive. He's making it a little more seriously than perhaps, probably very much more wisely than I did. But everything he said is, of course, entirely right. I have attended the Bilderberg meetings for many years, actually. And the only reason I attend them is I come away with, I think, my own understanding of political and economic problems in various parts of the world actually improved by the opportunity to have an informal weekend with people of the kind who come and discussing things with, amongst other people, the Shadow Chancellor in a completely off-the-record informal way is also of considerable value, but I'm sure he agrees we derive a great deal from it, and we hope it actually improves our contribution to debate here eventually as well.
Mr. Mark Reckless.
Our honourable friend, the member for Penrith and the Border, was previously invited to a Bilderberg conference, and I wonder if the Minister, as a member of the steering committee, if he could tell us why he's been dropped. Has he done something wrong?
No, there's every year about half those participating have never been before, and quite a lot of people only come for one meeting. The number of people who come every year is comparatively small. There's a kind of core of which, for some extraordinary reason, I have become one of those over about the last decade. The honourable member for, my honourable friend, the member for Penrith the Border, made a most distinguished contribution, but he should not be disappointed that he wasn't invited next year. The British Committee were actually trying to bring a rising star of a younger generation in, because one of the whole points is we do not want the whole thing to become an ageing establishment of people who used to be something important in government. I have no doubt that one day they will implore my right honourable friend to attend again, but I can't guarantee when that will be.
Mr. Dennis Skinner.
Have you been, Dennis? Have you been there, Dennis? I wouldn't be seen dead with them. How come that when all those media moguls, the bankers, politicians have been meeting together since 1954, not one of them was able to spot the recession coming? Or maybe they caused it.
We have had trade unionists there sometimes. There are plenty of social democrats. I don't think anybody as left-wing as the honourable member has ever attended in my experience, but if I scratch my memory, I probably remember somebody. Obviously, the honourable member forecasts with absolute precision the course of the forthcoming collapse of capitalism in 2007. In that respect, I do agree his foresight was rather better than that of most pundits. We continue to meet in the hope that next time we'll see it coming with slightly more clarity.
Mr. John Redwood.
As many UKIP voters fear that the Bilderberg Group is a plot to promote more unaccountable European government, could my right honourable friend give them any reassurance or suggestion as to why they may be wrong in that thought?
Well, nowadays we get accused of plots to overthrow to establish a government of the world, to poison the local water courses, to plan an invasion of the United States of America. 10 years ago, I was told I was attending a plot to hand over Britain to Brussels and to subordinators to the United States of Europe. The next instalment of the plot comes later. But I used then to point out that a fellow member of the steering committee was Mr. Conrad Black. And in private as in public, Mr. Conrad Black was not in favour of handing anything over to Brussels and wasn't in any way furthering this cause. I regret to say that Mr. Black is the only member who ever attended what I recall who has since had the misfortune to be sentenced to a sentence of imprisonment, whereupon he has withdrawn from the Bilderberg meetings. But I assure my right honourable friend, there is the full range of opinion from left to right, pretty well represented at Bilderberg from across Western Europe. But that in itself shows that the idea we're furthering any kind of agenda is absolute nonsense. If I was plotting to do anything, I would not actually assemble that particular group of people because you would never agree on an object.
Watson.
Can the Minister confirm he declared his trusteeship of the body that funds the conference to his permanent secretary when he was appointed by the Prime Minister?
I congratulate the honourable member. I am looking that up because I had forgotten that I am actually a member of a steering committee. When we were hosting at Watford, I discovered I was actually, amongst other things, I'm a trustee of the British steering group, so I am checking with the aid of my constituency secretary whether I ever put that in. I assure the honourable member, I had completely forgotten that it was set up on that basis long before the rules were established. The trustees have never met as trustees. All I actually do is sit as a member of a committee and help to play my part in the organisation of a meeting, and that's all I've ever done.
Mr. Redwood Lee.
We've had a bit of fun today, and indeed, who would want to spend a weekend of irredeemable tediousness with a bunch of establishment toffs discussing the world economics? But the serious point is this, surely, and I put this to my right honourable friend, why on earth does the House of Commons think it's necessary to discuss what's said in a private meeting anyway?
Perhaps my right honourable friend wasn't here when I started. It is the first time I've ever risen into the House of Commons to answer questions on behalf of a private organisation for which the British government has absolutely no responsibility whatever.
Mr. Philip Davis.
Speaker, I know I can't be described as a rising star, and so should I not presume that my invitation was lost in the post? But can the Minister explain to us whether or not, either formally or informally, he took the opportunity whilst there to discuss his campaign to keep the UK within the European Union, and which members of the European Union were actually at this particular conference?
Well, firstly, he would not be surprised to know that I don't think I'm being too indiscreet to say that the subject of the future of the European Union and Britain's participation in it did come up from time to time in the weekend. From many countries, people do have actually quite a strong interest in that subject. So it was discussed, but again, on Chatham House rules, and no conclusions of any kind were reached, I can assure him.
Philip Hollowbone.
My right honourable friend, the only British citizen on the steering committee, and who does he think his replacement will be?
No, the other members at the moment are John Kerr and Marcus Aegis, and I don't know who my successor will be.
Order.
Committee, we're slightly overrepresented, which probably a reflection of the quality of debate in this place and elsewhere in the United Kingdom.
Order. I think the matters have been very fully explored.